Hi there, this is Josh Friberg with The Abundant Agent, and today we're going to be talking about 3 reasons that your accountability might not be working. On this channel, we talk about how real estate insurance agents can be more productive in their work, more present at home, and more purposeful in community. If you want more about that, check out a video we did last week about those 3 areas of work, home, and community and how you can be there. And as I've been talking with agents, what I've been hearing from them is, I've been in coaching before, or I've had a sales leader or a manager before that talked about accountability, but boy, it just never worked for me. And I think there's 3 big reasons why, and we're going to go over those today and maybe show you a few ways that you can help combat those 3 things that get in the way of accountability really working for you. And we're going to base it off of the accountability cycle that we use at The Abundant Agent. And that accountability cycle you can see here is this idea of action, accountability, and assessment. And I'm going to go into a little more detail about how each one of those works. So when we talk about any type of relationship you have where somebody is going to hold you accountable to something, the first thing you have to have is a really clearly defined action. And this is where a lot of accountability goes wrong. It goes wrong because this action maybe is a little too squishy. It's too undefined. I'm going to make more sales calls this week. I'm going to have some more appointments, more financial reviews with clients this week. But it's just sort of squishy. It's not defined. It's not specific. The other place that it goes wrong is that the action is too, that when you're going to do it isn't clear. I've been coaching agents before, and they said, hey, this week I'm going to reach out to 400 people from my database, and I'll ask a few more questions. I said, great, how many minutes does it take to talk to each one of those? And so how many hours would that be? And by the time they added up, they realized it would take them more hours than they have available in their week to complete the action. So the first place where it really goes wrong is unclear action. And if you want to have more clear action, one of the quickest ways to do this is make sure that you can actually measure it, that it's specific enough that you can measure it. But the other thing is to give it a date and time when you're going to take that action. I'm going to take that action on Tuesday at 3:15, right? We don't want it to be so squishy that it's like, oh, I'll do it by next week, right? And so you want to be able to get to the end of maybe a one-on-one you're having with a sales manager and actually pull out your calendar and say when you're going to complete the action, All right, the second place where accountability goes wrong is really in the area that we typically think of when we talk about accountability. But accountability isn't just this state, it's actually the entire cycle that we're going to be going over today. It's the entire cycle that we're going to be going over. And so, but there is a section of it that is accountability. And accountability, you can define really simply as this. It's caring enough about the other person to ask them if they did what they said they were going to do. You see, accountability only works when the leader, the coach, the manager, the sales leader genuinely cares about the other person. That it's not just about checking off a box, but it's actually about helping them. Well, where this goes wrong is what I call the fame, blame, shame accountability. Fame, blame, and shame accountability. And these are bad. You don't want to do these. These are not healthy and not good accountability that gets results. The first problem we run into with accountability is fame, is the idea of wanting to look good, or the idea of the leader or the coach wanting the salesperson or the client to look good, to protect their ego, to help them kind of retain their fame. We find this all the time with, and I used to do this when I first started leading a sales team, is, listen, I knew good and well that they had not set the number of appointments they needed to set in order to hit their goals. Like, I knew it. I worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder with my sales team, and I knew they hadn't done it. But when time came on Friday for our one-on-one, I found myself chickening out. As a leader, I didn't want to ask the question because I wanted to protect their ego, I wanted to protect the relationship, and I didn't want to feel like a bad guy. And what I realized is that doesn't help them. It doesn't demonstrate really the care-based accountability that I sought to deliver. And over time, I began to get to a place where I could ask the question knowing that they hadn't done it, because the only way to coach them towards succeeding was to get the reality out there, and to help them be more accountable to the activities they said they would do. The cool part was we were able to problem solve and help a lot of our salespeople achieve their goals. The second place where accountability goes wrong is blame, right? Is that we allow the salesperson or the coaching client to blame outside circumstances, to say, oh, I was gonna do that, but, right? And you can always tell in an accountability conversation when you say, hey, did you call those 50 people from the list we put together to call? And they're either gonna answer one or two ways. They're gonna say yes, or they're gonna say, well, you see, the thing is, and that immediately we know is going into a blaming conversation. One of the quick ways to think through how to move from blaming outside circumstances to taking full responsibility and accountability is something that Stephen Covey taught us in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, this is going on 30 years ago now, but is what he called the circle of control, and then there's the circle of concern. Well, there's a lot of things in our world that we're concerned about, right? That we're interested in, that we think about, that we're curious about, and by the way, a lot of things in our circle of concern that impact us. But then there's our circle of control. And these are the things that we actually can control. And the goal to move away from blame is to increase the size of the circle of control and decrease the size of the circle of concern. Right? What we want to do, if you're thinking about this, is to say, okay, this happened, right? A meteor fell out of the sky and hit my car, and we want to go, yeah, that concerns me. Now what can I do about it? And so when we get into the accountability conversation, and the question is, did you set enough, IFRs, individual financial reviews this week? Well, if the answer is no, then you say, what could I have done? How do I take full responsibility of the areas that I can control? Instead of, oh, I set the appointments, but 3 people flaked out on me. Okay, well, that's going to happen. That's outside your area of control, but what can you control? And the last place where I see accountability really go wrong is in shame. Is anytime the leader, the sales manager, the coach starts to make failure to complete the action a moral issue or a character issue, right? Or allows the client or the salesperson to do the same, well, they start falling into a shame pattern. And instead of saying, hey, that happened, you're still a great person, you're still great at sales, you still belong here, you still have value, well, and the activity didn't get completed, what caused that? Right? It's not about whether or not somebody's a good person, bad person. It's really about the activity didn't get done. So what got in the way? What were some of the things that we could do differently so that that doesn't happen again this next week? And so what we want to do with all of these is we want to get rid of the fame, blame, shame cycle and really move toward care-based accountability. Accountability that says, hey, I know your ego is caught up in this, and I care enough to ask you if you did what you said you were going to do. Hey, I know some stuff that happened that was outside your control, and what's inside your control that we can take action on to help you get to the results that you want to get to. And hey, this isn't about your character. This isn't about your morality. It's about effectiveness and ineffectiveness. Let's go find the activity that is effective and that actually works. So the third place where accountability goes wrong, so the first place is having squishy actions. The second place is having, accountability that's based on fame, blame, and shame rather than care. And the third place where accountability goes wrong is in the assessment stage, right? Assessment stage. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're assessing the action, that we're making sure that after we complete the action, well, that it actually works. Going way back to Socrates, he said that the unexamined life is not worth living. If we're simply doing things because our manager told us to, or because we saw, we read a book that told us this is what we had to do, or we looked over at another agent and we're trying to copy what they did, well, we're not necessarily assessing it for its effectiveness. We're not necessarily assessing it for its effectiveness. And so what we want to do is really get to a place where we are assessing the action. And what we want to do is we want to move from simply just doing, blind action to doing, action that gets results. Action that gets results. So you can see where it's important for us to look at our actions and say, did it get me what I wanted, right? If you say, hey, I'm going to stand on the side of the highway with a sign that says, come work with me, right? Well, let's not just do that. Let's find out if it worked, if it gave it the results. So we're going to pick a length of time. We're going to try that for 30 days and see what happens. We want to go for results. The other thing we want to go for in this is we want sustainability. We want sustainability. Can you keep doing this week in, week out, month in, month out for a career? Because if we're going to do something, we're going to go out and take action, but it totally destroys our health, our well-being, our families, our relationships. It, burns all of our relational bridges. Well, that's not sustainable. That's not something you're going to be able to keep doing. But if it's something that fills you, if it's something that gives you life, that makes you, gosh, I want to just do more of that, well, then let's do more of that, right? And so that's where we really want to get into assessment to see, is the action worth taking? And the last part is we really want this to be integrated. Gosh, I can't tell you how many agents I've talked to that said, Josh, I've hired a coach before, but honestly, they kept wanting me to do it their way. They kept wanting me to do it their way, and it didn't feel integrated to who I am as a person. It didn't feel aligned to who I am as a person. And so we always look, when we're coaching people with the abundant agent method, it's always looking for a way that's integrated to who you are. We don't want you to be somebody other than who you are. We want you to be more of who you are. We want you to be the most you that you can be. And that's a way that we can integrate our business. That's why, last week we talked about that our lives need to be, work, home, and community. And we only achieve abundance when we're effective in all three of these areas. And it only works if we're taking actions in our work that are integrated to who we are, that are really in alignment and integrity with who we are. Well, the last part of accountability that makes it super effective is after we've assessed the action is to now go to new action, right? We're going to say, hey, that worked, that didn't work, parts of it worked, parts of it didn't work. Based on that, what new action do we want to commit to? What are we going to do more of? What are we going to do less of? What are we never going to do again? Hey, if you've ever had a relationship of accountability, either with a sales leader, with a manager, or with a coach, you may have just heard a few things that kept you from having real effectiveness in there. It could be that your actions weren't clearly defined, right? It could be that the accountability phase was based on fame, protecting your ego, on blame, allowing outside forces to decide whether you did it or not, or on shame, that it was somehow a character issue that you didn't complete the activities rather than care-based accountability. Or it could be that third one that you didn't actually assess. You said, oh, hey, I did the activity, high fives around, but nobody ever stopped and said, did I sell more stuff? Well, if that didn't work, why are we doing it? If you're interested in learning more about this accountability cycle, first of all, take a second, subscribe to this channel, like this video, or write a comment. Really helps us out. But the other thing is, head on over to my website, The Abundant Agent, and go over to the coaching tab. In there, you can register right now for a complimentary 30-minute coaching consultation. I'd love to talk with you about your business, areas where you're having success, areas where maybe you aren't, and see if this accountability cycle would help you to get more results and the kinds of results that you're looking for that are sustainable, integrated to who you are as a person. This is really how we learn that thing I talk about every week, right? That we're going to be more productive at work, more present at home, and more purposeful in our communities. If there's any way I can help, let me know, and we'll see you next week.